Please pardon the following interruption for public service announcement.
Welcome to the Investing in Intelligence show, where we talk about artificial intelligence, companies, stocks, and trading. I'm James here with my co host Kai, and today we'll be talking about Meta. I want to remind you that the opinions expressed on this show are just that, opinions. They should not be taken as specific advice to invest in a particular way. So, Kai, looking at Meta here, it was interesting. About a week ago, actually, right when we were recording our last episode, there was a report that came out from Wall Street Journal initially saying that Apple and Meta were discussing AI collaboration with their new Apple Intelligence. And then literally the next day, Bloomberg found some sources who said, no, actually, Apple turned down Meta months ago. They considered Meta for a quick moment and then decided not to go with Meta. Meta is an interesting topic, big advertising company. Any initial thoughts on Meta?
Yeah, I don't know. Gosh, some of those news headlines is definitely rumor, not fact. I don't put too much stock into those. Um, yeah, I love Meta as a company, is from my standpoint,
You
especially
love
after
Meta.
their last earning. I love it. Yeah, I actually hold a large, full disclosure, hold a large position in Meta. Um, I will make a side comment before we get into this is that who's the co-host? Am I the co-host? How does that work? Are you the co-host? I think you're my co-host. So you always say you're my co-host Kai, and I think it's the other way around. I think it should be hi, I'm the co-host of Kai. Can we change that in the intro? Is that a possibility?
Well, we both know that eventually you just get replaced with an AI agent. So it's going to be eventually irrelevant who was initially the co host or not. So,
AI taking over the world. Yeah, AI. I mean, maybe we should have AI running the country. It's really unclear as to who actually is running the country. And we have some actual CEOs that are quite charismatic. I mean, we've talked about multiple companies, Palantir CEO, Elon Musk. We've talked about quite a few ServiceNow CEO and Meta, Mark Zuckerberg, I have to say, has continues to impress me. I really liked how he handled Congress, especially in some of the language that he uses. However, he did not impress me during his last earnings call. So Meta posted really good numbers on their last earnings call, really good revenue. It was something really in their guidance and potentially some of the ways in which Mark was talking that may have caused the drop in Meta. So I bought as much Meta after the drop, really after their earnings, as I've seen. And so, or from what I saw numbers wise, I mean, we're talking the year to date now, not the calendar year per se of their Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, but year to date they're about 142 billion in revenue, which is increased from 2023. They're really on pace. They're doing really well, and we can go into what I like about the company. Versus 2021 to 2022, you actually saw sort of an EPS or revenue drop, not really drop off, but or you could say drop off, but it really didn't increase. We've really seen a big increase in 2023 and now 2024. So as a company, I like Meta, but explain to me how Meta is an AI play. I mean, we all know Meta is Facebook. We all know as Meta is advertising, Instagram, WhatsApp. So explain to me how Meta is an AI play.
yeah, absolutely. So they integrate AI in a few different ways. And this is coming straight from the horse's mouth. This is coming from what they said on their last earnings call. So they have an AI assistant that they've integrated across their family of applications. They have content creator AIs for people like us who are making content on Instagram. Instagram is their main social media app after Facebook. They have business AIs to help customers with support. So companies can use an AI to chat with customers who are asking about product information or availability. And they have internal coding and development AIs. But I think probably what they've used most to their own benefit, especially when Apple pulled the plug on them on using cookies and things like that for advertising, is AI integrated into their Instagram and Facebook feeds. So 30% of posts on your Facebook feed are now delivered by their AI recommendation system and 50% on your Instagram feed. So that has helped them target ads towards whatever it is you like, whoever it is you are, and it's helping them make more money. So it looked to me like they've actually increased revenue quite a bit, like significantly more than they've increased the amount that they're making from advertising has increased kind of out of proportion to other things. I was trying to find I had a good statistic on that.
Do you buy do you buy anything in the mall, or how do you shop? I mean, I will say this, I mean, I do all of my shopping on Instagram. And you know
Really?
that I'm
You
not
do?
I do. I mean, I find that products that I like from Instagram, and then I find the link or I find the company. I mean, for example, I really like Thursday Boot products. That I found that on Instagram. Um, there are actually, I mean, Cuts clothing is great. I found other things that I really like, or products that I like from Instagram advertising, and Meta included. Do you ever click on any of the advertisements on Meta or Instagram?
No, what's funny is what you're describing as small businesses, like the two companies that you just talked about. I never would have heard of them if you hadn't mentioned one of them to me. The other one I still haven't even heard of. I shop at Lululemon and Banana Republic. These are legacy. Well, Lululemon not legacy, but Banana Republic is Gap. This is a legacy clothing
James
company.
shops at Old Navy on the reg.
Actually, I like their underwear. A
Yeah,
little
yeah.
bit of
Okay.
private there, but I like their underwear
Lululemon
actually.
underwear is on point. I will say
Not
that
Lululemon.
Lululemon.
I was talking
Well,
about Old
I
Navy.
don't know. I'm saying you shop at Lululemon. I will say their boxer briefs are on point. However, from an advertising perspective, I think really Instagram and Meta are taking over the world. I mean, I've had friends who, like, for example, I had a friend who worked for Dillard's, and that Dillard's would pay models on Instagram quite a bit of money for every particular post that they do. I mean, how many people that are even on Instagram do you see them tagging some sort of clothing line or Target? I mean, it's I'm thinking I don't I'm not going to state this as a true fact, but I will say that is Instagram and Meta basically caused the death of magazines, and if social media caused the death of magazines and malls. I mean, essentially, I mean, you can shop online now and find the things that you like online. So
Yeah, I think one question is, has Instagram caused the death of Facebook? And globally, that's not the case because people outside the US actually still use Facebook, especially in Asia and other parts of the world, still use Facebook to a huge degree, just not as much Americans. But the stat that I was looking for to give you earlier, so daily users are up 7% year over year for Meta, but revenue was up 27% year over year. And that's due to a few things. First of all, they've just increased what they charge for ads, but they're also making more money from every customer. So, or from every user. So we know that 3.2 billion people use a Meta app every single day. And they've doubled the amount that they're making from each of those users. Like on average, it's 40 something dollars now when it used to be 20 something dollars per user. So imagine,
from advertising.
yeah, from you, from selling stuff to
Yeah,
you
I mean, have you
essentially
ever bought
from
anything on Facebook Marketplace before?
no, I haven't. I haven't. No, you
I
have,
mean,
right?
I have sold quite a bit. I mean, I moved multiple times in the last 3 or 4 years. Have sold a lot of my furniture, a lot of my things on Facebook Marketplace. I mean, I'm a Facebook Marketplace regular. I mean, you can find the deals on Facebook Marketplace, but we're getting out of essentially what we're going into is basically James is saying that AI models or AI tools are used in assistance in advertising, for which Meta and Instagram are becoming king, in my opinion. So,
Okay.
um,
First of all, this is sounding a little too gushing on Meta, so we need to bring in a little bit of criticism here, and let me start with that. So, first of all, in the last earnings call, he said some things that you're probably not going to like that you mentioned. I think you already didn't like. He said that full year operating expenses and capital spending are pretty much going up. So the stock dropped precipitously while he was talking. Mark Zuckerberg started out the call, and we saw the stock drop below $400 in after hours trading. I was actually snapping. I was buying, snapping it up
420,
at that
430.
price.
Yeah, I mean, I was
No,
buying
no,
on the
drop below
drop.
400. Drop below 400. I saw 390. I saw it wick down to 390 something. So essentially, what he said. This is his quote: we should invest significantly more over the coming years to build even more advanced models and the largest scale AI services in the world. We'll still grow our investment envelope meaningfully before we make much revenue from some of these new products. We've historically seen a lot of volatility in our stock during this phase of our product playbook, where we're investing and scaling a new product, but aren't yet monetizing it. So essentially, he said on the earnings call very clearly, we're going to spend a ton of money for years before we effectively monetize AI. And troubling to me is some of the ways that he said he expects to monetize AI. He says he's going to scale business messaging, introduce ads or paid content into AI interactions, and enable people to pay to use bigger AI models and to access more compute. First of all, this is quickly being commoditized. They're giving away their AI chatbot for free. Do you expect people to pay to use bigger AI models and access more compute? I don't necessarily think so. I'm paying for ChatGPT. I have no reason to switch over to their.
Yeah, have you used their? I mean, we both use ChatGPT and OpenAI. We're consistent daily users of that. Do you use? I mean, for the listeners out there, at some point, I don't know what the date was, but when you open Facebook or you open Instagram, for example, the search bar actually is an AI tool, and I've never tried to chat with it. I've never tried to ask it any particular questions, but at some point in the last 2 or 3 months, I'm guessing it switched over for that. But Meta in itself is an AI play. Meta is an end AI play. And one of the things I like about Meta is in regard to their revenue and advertising. However, Meta, like other companies we've talked about before, is not just AI play. I mean, they're involved in VR, correct? I mean, I have not tried Apple's headset yet, but the only other headset out there pretty much is Meta's.
I would be careful at saying Meta is an AI play. I think they're, like a lot of companies, trying to be an AI company or partially an AI company. But what they say here, I don't see these as necessarily viable ways to build a massive business, like the CEO said, introducing ads or paid content into AI interaction. So when you're in your chatbot, which by the way is meta.ai, I think you can just type in meta.ai to try out their chatbot. And yes, I have tried it out. But when you go there and you're chatting, how are they going to throw in ads there? What people want is accurate information when they're talking to a chatbot. They don't want an ad to pop up. And honestly, would that not affect the accuracy if they say, hey, well, this is the best need for what you're asking about. Would you like to go to the website and purchase it? And then they take money from the retailer? That would seem to be influencing the accuracy of the info you're getting. So I don't agree. And scaling business messaging was the other way he expects to build a huge business with AI. Have you ever contacted a business on WhatsApp? No, that's what he's talking about with business messaging. So have you? I just don't see any of the three ways that they're talking about monetizing AI as viable at this moment.
Yeah, I think in regards to an AI play, Meta potentially is one of those companies that may sort of figure out an end product in regards to AI.
Let's
And so
hope.
that's what I mean. Even though they're not what I would say an AI play currently, I think they're an advertising play. I think they're kind of a pseudo software type play. I mean, they offer products as well, VR headsets, right? I mean, we both have utilized the Meta Quest and like that product. Um,
Yeah, I did want to just mention that on that's actually something I'm pretty positive on is their Reality Labs division, which is mostly the old Oculus company that they bought and now they just call it Meta VR, but essentially that segment represents a significant loss for their overall business and very little revenue. So I think we're talking like $500 million dollars in revenue. Let's see here. Yeah, so Q1 revenue was $440 million dollars. And the cool thing is that it's growing pretty well. So this quarter, if you look at it compared to last year, that's increase in revenue of 30%. But if you look at last quarter, which was the holiday quarter, revenue for their VR segment, their Reality Labs segment, that was up 54% year over year. So in other words, they're selling more and more of these headsets.
growth in regards to revenue there. To give you an example or really actual numbers of what I mean by small percentage, 116 billion, 117 billion, 134 billion, and 142 billion. So if it's 500 million or less than a billion, that is a less than 1% of their revenue. But
Correct.
Meta is in a lot of things. Advertising is king for Meta. And I think everyone, I mean, my grandmother is on Meta. I mean, advertising is king. I envision a world, I really do, in which AI completely, and I think it's a bigger threat to Google, honestly. But depending on the end game in regards to the narrative and how people are interacting with AI. But I don't see Instagram and Meta Facebook going anywhere. And I think advertising is going to be utilized through social media solely almost in the future. I can envision that in the future, just like I can envision a time where TV is live streamed for everything and there is no cable TV any and not that in the near future. So numbers, revenue growth, EPS growth. Give me another. So you're kind of saying it's unclear in regards to how they're going to scale revenue and profits from AI development. Give me another negative in regards to Meta.
Um, so I have a few negatives written down here. I do want to preface that they are successfully using AI for advertising. That's the best way that they're using it right now. So I think his big plan of how they're going to use it in the future is unclear, but maybe everyone's big plan of monetizing AI in the future is unclear. So they are using it successfully for their advertising business right now. Now, what I would say is there are some other risks, but I don't feel like they're necessarily significant risks. So the TikTok risk is quickly on its way out. If we're banning TikTok, that as a risk to Meta's underlying business is less and less significant, if not completely gone. Not to mention, Meta used to be more of a, or sorry, Instagram used to be more of a photos app, and then gradually they switched over to video to compete more with TikTok. Well, if TikTok gets wiped out, it's just Instagram versus Google Shorts, or sorry, YouTube Shorts at that point. So I mean, I say Instagram Reels probably wins over YouTube Shorts, although I do like YouTube Shorts. But taking out a competitor would be nice for their bottom line. I don't feel like regulation, all these big lawsuits, all these big, oh, you're ruining children's minds. I don't feel like those are going to go anywhere necessarily in the long run because technology never gets walked back. Okay. So the car replaced the horse, and people just don't ride on horses that much to get anywhere nowadays. It's going to be the same with these new technologies, social media being one, AI. We just can't get rid of social media at this point. It's so ingrained. Instagram is so ingrained. No matter what regulators say or do, no matter what fines they levy, it's not going to go back.
Yeah, social media is going nowhere. Essentially, one of the other things is we live in the United States and sometimes can get really kind of isolated into what we do in the United States. However, Meta is used worldwide, and WhatsApp. I mean, let's talk about a little bit about WhatsApp's used in other countries. You've traveled a lot more recently than I have. I mean, what are you seeing in basically other continents, James? So
Yeah, it's interesting. So in other continents, which I've been on the African continent quite a bit, and then I've been south of the US. I would say that there are pretty much two apps. There's Telegram and there's WhatsApp. And some countries are Telegram countries and some countries are WhatsApp countries. Some countries use a little bit of both. It's funny that in the US we only use iMessage. Nobody uses WhatsApp or Telegram. But I don't know. I don't know. I don't really see the monetization of WhatsApp like they say, but I take their word for it. I do want to say one thing real quick because I don't know if we actually came out and said it, and we don't want to end our conversation on Meta without actually saying it. We need to say it very clearly that 98% of their revenue is from advertising. So what that does mean is that if we have a big economic downturn, the theory on digital advertising in general is that digital advertising dollars disappear when we have a significant economic downturn. And I think that's why previously you saw Meta go from that previous high of 300 to closer to 100. So Meta was the golden nugget of that big downturn that we had. So we had the big ZERP period, zero interest rate period, where stocks went way up with all the stimulus. And then we had kind of a tech crash, and Meta went from 300 to 100. And Meta was the best buy during that time period. Of course, the recession never really materialized, and now it's back at 500. So I like Meta. I like its valuation. I would put a price target of $670 to $770 for my usual 1.5 year, my year and a half level hold. And what I'm doing is I'm taking the highest estimate of 26.5 total year earnings for next year for 2025, and I'm multiplying that by what I think their multiple should be. And their current PE is 29, so I'm multiplying by that. So that takes me to a max price target of $770. I do think it's realistic. And yeah, so I like Meta. I like Meta more than Google because I feel like they're not threatened by AI as much. And then I kind of like it more than Amazon because I feel like Amazon's had a huge run. So I guess if we're comparing, the mega cap stocks one to another, I do like Meta comparatively to some of these others.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, one negative I would see with Meta, and you really brought up the reason why, is basically an EPS roller coaster. I mean, it's not been EPS steady growth. I mean, you did see sort of revenue decline slightly and or not increase. However, we have seen in 2023, 2024, revenue has been increasing 73% in 2023. So now that is post really sort of pandemic and some of the stimulus money and what you're alluding to there. However, that is a big negative in regards to Meta. I think your evaluation, in my particular opinion, is a little high. However, we'll both just go ahead and state, what are you going to buy Meta, not buy Meta? I mean, we both, I hold position in Meta. Do you hold a position in Meta?
So currently, that's actually a good question. Yeah, I do. I have a smaller position, like a 2% position. So 2% of my overall stock investing portfolio is in Meta, whereas something like Nvidia or my favorite SMCI would be like a 5 or 6%. I think I've got like a 2% in Meta. But yeah, to wrap up, I'll give you my take on it. I am buying Meta because of its low valuation and because it's produced some of the best AI models like Llama. And I feel like it's a better buy than Google, which is inherently threatened by AI.
In Amazon? Meta,
Amazon,
would
I
you,
feel
if you had $20,000, you could put it, let's just say Meta's trading at 400, what, $500 a share around right now, and Amazon is in the $200 a share. If you had $500, are you buying one stock of Meta or two stocks of Amazon?
I'm buying one stock of Meta instead of two of Amazon. I just feel like Amazon was a great trade 2 months ago, but they've blown it up. I mean, isn't it up like 30% over the last month or something like that? I have to verify that, but it's Amazon just had a big run, and Meta is still recovering from a gigantic sell-off, or it just finished recovering from a gigantic sell-off. But tell us, Guy, are you buying or selling?
Yeah, so I'm buying Meta. However, the reasons are different than your reasons. Despite, its increasing revenue growth and price target, I'm buying Meta essentially from a technical analysis standpoint. Right now, Meta has really recovered to its previous, it's filled in the gap, and we formed this handle, which means the buyers and sellers are now competing, and the 21-day moving average had just crossed the 50-day moving average. And so Meta currently is in a buy point again. So I'm buying Meta because it's in a buy point. However, if I was choosing between Meta or Amazon, like the same question, I'm going to ask the same question to myself. Right now, I'm buying Meta. However, if it was 3 weeks ago, I would have bought Amazon, and I did buy Amazon. So
Let's say someone puts a laser blaster to your head and they tell you in 15 seconds or less, you have to tell me if you're buying or selling Meta, and then you have to give me 2 or 3 reasons in 15 seconds or less why you're buying it. Go ahead and give me that.
I'm buying Meta for two reasons: technical analysis currently and revenue growth. That's it.
Excellent. Yeah. Okay. I mean, I think this is just kind of like ASML. We've had some stocks recently that we've discussed that we're pretty bullish on. But for me, the only risk really is economic downturn. To be honest with Meta, like if we have a big recession, I think it comes down.
Well, and let's look at this from two different perspectives. I mean, for our listeners out there, you can look at this from a long term. We call it going long on a stock. When you buy a stock, you expect the stock to go up, and you can hold it. You can look at this from a 3 to 5 year investment perspective or standpoint, or you can look at this and as a sort of from a retail trader trading standpoint. And sometimes on some of these stocks, I wait till they drop. What goes up must come down. I wait till they're at a good buy point. I look at the upside and I say, okay, Meta is going to go up to 600 a share in a year, EPS times PE. And when it drops, I'll take the discount. Or when it forms this handle, it's a time to get in again. Versus, let's say Meta makes its run now to 550, and then you buy Meta at its high. Well, it's overcooked a little bit. It's overheated, and you may be chasing yourself because you bought it at 550 and it dropped down to 500 again. And so I think it's also important to choose the right time to buy.
Yeah. One last thing I want to mention before we wrap up Meta, and there's something I wanted to say on the economy after we finish with Meta. But One last thing I wanted to mention about Meta, people are probably listening to this and saying, hey, your podcast is about investing in AI. How have you not even mentioned Llama and all these other models, these open source models that Meta has released, and their idea, their concept of how open source AI is so important, the research they're doing on AI, the little products and all. So the answer is that we haven't really seen that turn into anything monetizable. Um, and to go a little bit further, I feel like Anthropic and OpenAI are beating Meta. We have a lot of people, a lot of AI commentators coming out in the past week or two saying the new Claude, the new version of Anthropic's Claude chatbot, is even better than OpenAI's ChatGPT. No one is talking about Llama at the moment. So sure, they could be doing a big training run and releasing something, but is it going to add anything to their bottom line? No, we're here evaluating stocks. We don't necessarily see that adding anything to their bottom line. So that's why we're not just obsessing over Meta's AI models at the moment.
Yeah, I think it's okay to invest in a stock in regards to future potential, and research and development is part of that. I mean, one of the reasons I held and hold a large position in Tesla is that Tesla's numbers were horrible. I think Tesla is overvalued in regards to what its numbers have shown, but I hold a position because of future development. I mean, have you seen, I mean, just in general, this is a little side note. Have you seen some of the new videos in regards to their robot that's coming out? Or I think it was supposed to come out this next year. I mean, there was one video I saw where their robot got out and started shooting at one of the Tesla trucks. Did you see any of these?
Your weapon, sir. Thank you, Stewart. Fire in the hole.
Yeah, so as far as Tesla is concerned, they actually have said that they're holding back on releasing their robot to companies, to the public, because they're concerned that someone could hack it. So I can assure you, whatever you saw of a robot shooting something was not a real video. I'm sure it was
Yeah,
doctored.
it was not a real video, but there's been other videos that have been shown as well. My main point is that I think it's okay to invest in a security for the potential future of some of the products that you could make an argument. So what? Hey, Kai, James, some of these AI products, software products are going to come out and they're going to actually. I like the way the research and development is utilizing some of the money here, and I think that's a very reasonable argument. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So just wrapping up there, I wanted to go over the economy a little bit. How do you feel where we stand at this point in time on the economy? I heard some people say that rates were up on Friday because it seemed that Trump won the debate, or rather Biden lost the debate so badly, and people are concerned that Trump could be inflationary for the economy. Any thoughts on that?
No, I don't have any thoughts on that. I mean, I have kind of one of the things with Trump is Trump to equal tax cuts, but Trump also equaled tariffs, and so tax cuts and tariffs don't go together well, essentially, and can be inflationary in nature. And so I think that is in regard to that thought process. However, I don't really have any thoughts on whether or not what the stock market is going to do if Trump gets elected president. I don't think the debate moved the stock market at all. I think core PCE was an interesting reaction for me. I mean, core PCE in line better than expected in regards to inflation numbers, but yet the market really didn't react how I expected it to. A little interesting in that regard. However, time will tell.
Yeah, I think that PCE was in line with expectations. Interesting thing that I started to hear about 2 weeks ago. So I'm going to go ahead and play you a clip from Bloomberg. And this to me was mind blowing. And let me tell you why afterwards. But I'm going to go ahead and play the clip.
When people toss around the phrase immigration, how much of that's in non-farm payrolls?
Sure. So when you think about the steady state of payrolls growth, forgetting about immigration, we're talking somewhere, there's domestic growth of 85 to 100,000. That's without sort of strong immigration trends. Immigration trends roughly double that.
Double?
Roughly double that. So, for example, the Biden administration humanitarian parole programs, which is bringing in people from Mexico and then Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, Venezuela, bringing in 75,000 people per month, and they're able to get a work visa within 30 days. So presumably they're
Okay,
if they're
but
working
this
age.
is too important. You're telling me we got a run rate.
All right, I'm going to stop it there. But what she's talking about actually came out of some research that was released back in March. And so we had a report from the Brookings Institute, and I've gone ahead and I pulled it up here. But we had two researchers who actually looked into this issue and found that essentially non-farm payroll numbers are doubled because of all the immigration that we have. And you can't just call it illegal immigration because the current administration has largely legalized a lot of this immigration. And you just heard her talk about that. So why does this matter? Because there are two really big recession signals. First of all, if initial jobless claims are above 250,000 and we've gotten closer and closer to that, and secondly, if payrolls are less than 125,000, if non-farm payrolls are below 125,000 or even worse below 100,000, those are recession indicators. But what the experts now are telling us is that all of this immigration is roughly doubling the number of non-farm payrolls. So our last number was 272,000. Divide that in half, and that's pretty much what the real number is. So somewhere around 130 something thousand is the real number. If we start to see, so I guess what I'm saying is we're getting false data here because we have an unseen amount of immigration coming into the country, and I'm concerned. So pretty much at this point, you don't even have the payrolls number as a recession indicator because that's fake. We have so much immigration. Brookings Institute telling us that we have double the amount on non-farm payrolls because of this immigration. So you don't even have that number as an indicator. All you have is initial jobless claims. So watch that number because that's going to tell you when we're going into a recession. It's been pretty close to that consensus recession number of 250,000. We're hovering there.
Yeah, I mean, you get. I don't know about you. Okay, so if you get on Yahoo News, CNN, there's a lot of news that will sort of prop up the economy. Okay, and we haven't really seen unemployment rise despite continued inflation. Average American, in my opinion, and this is side note, is really hurting from its basic bottom line. I mean, I went to Subway, for example. I haven't been to Subway in forever. I mean, Subway, it was like $15. I mean, $15 for like a foot long sub. I mean, astronomical increases in 5 years. And so the overhead of the average American is gone up. And the reality is, at some point, kind of like you wonder if eventually what's going to cause the twig to snap. And I unemployment has been really in a good number. However, if we saw the debate, the Democratic Party has touted as part of their accomplishment job growth, and really that's just artificial job growth because a lot of the country was really not working during COVID, and so they all went back to work. But I don't know. To me, it's an unknown about what's going to happen. I like watching the numbers, and the one thing that only concerns me, these two reports that you and I had already talked about, concern me. But the other thing that concerns me in regards to the market and what I see in securities is I see a lot of growth in AI build out. I see the market being dragged along by the AI build out revenue and by a lot of companies like Meta, like Apple, like Google, who have a lot of cash and are trying to, or are essentially buying chips, buying GPUs, buying supercomputers, buying racks, buying the picks and shovels for their build out phase. And I think it is artificially elevating the stock market in regards to the overall market. When you look at the RSP, the equal weighted, and some of the small IWM, I mean, the Russell 2000 has been a laggard for a long time. And so that's just as concerning to me as what you're saying. Now, that being said, I watch it very closely, and we are in a bull market. You and I talked about this previously. We are in a bull market. And going back to Meta, it is essentially above its 21-day moving average. It's right there forming a handle, and it has steady revenue and steady EPS growth in 2023 and 2024. So
And if we go into an economic downturn, the stock is going to be cut by 2/3. There's going to be 1/3 of the stock remaining because advertising money is going to dry up. That's actually the theory. My personal opinion, from being a business owner, if things get rough, I actually want to advertise even more to bring in more customers. If customers stop coming to me, I feel like I need to spend even more on advertising. But anyway, so that's what they say. That's the theory. But we have to wrap up. Interesting kind of discussion on where things go with the economy. Everyone agrees the coming months are fine. Like things are going to be fine in the coming months. I think that's really a next year discussion. That's a next president discussion. We don't know who the next president is going to be. So down the road, months from now, closer to November, closer to the end of the year, we have more data on employment. We have more data on inflation. We have data on who's going to be the next administration and whether or not they're going to put tariffs into place. So we have things that we can look at and make a better determination of where the economy is going and whether or not a stock like Meta is going up or down. Meta reliant 98% of their revenue reliant on advertising.
And that's why I like the term informational trader as opposed to retail trader. Retail makes me just sort of think that I'm like shopping. Informational trading is basically I use the information provided to me to make an informed and educated decision in regards to my option trades and shorts and longs. Period. And I am not saying hold Meta for the next 10 years. I'm not saying that. But I am saying right now, may look at Meta as a buy. It's allowing the opportunity to get in at this particular time, and we'll see what happens in the future.
Awesome. Well, thanks for listening to our show. Please give us a rating or review, or on YouTube, a like or comment. We'll be back in the next episode to cover more AI stocks. You can find all our holdings and trades at investingintel.ai. Thanks so much, Kai.
Thanks, James. See you, dude.